Danielle is here. Look, you guys know I have talked about my Go Big podcasting courses for a long time. I wanted to launch to get into the podcasting world. There's so many things about podcasting people don't know. They don't know how to monetize. They don't know how often they should post. They don't know if guests are worth it or not and where they should spend their money. So Danielle is here. She has purchased 2 of my courses, has gone through them, and I really wanted to have her on to talk about why she wanted to do podcasting, give us any feedback, and really talk about like if these courses worked for you and you'd recommend them. So Danielle, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Sarah. It's my pleasure.
I'm very grateful for you. Thanks for purchasing the courses, then agreeing to talk about it.
Thank you for making them. Honestly, there's no way I could have even started my podcast without them. So I can't wait to dig in on that because you were my square one.
Oh my God. Okay, well, good. Well, that's exactly why I wanted to do it. I thought before we get into that, can you give everybody like a little bit of a brief background? You know, did you ever host a podcast before? Were you in media? Can you give us some context, kind of like how podcast was calling you?
Yeah, absolutely. So no, I don't have a background in media and I've never podcasted before. So it's something that has always been in the back of my mind, kind of one of those not pipe dreams, but just kind of I wonder what would happen if, and around December, January this past year, I there started to be like some divine synchronicities, if you will.
Yeah, I
Like
bet.
bear with me while I get a little woo woo. But my mom sent me a birthday card that was like, you are all these wonderful things. You're smart and you're so personable and you're so warm. And this is why you should start a podcast. And I was like, what? my mom my mom and I have never talked about podcasting ever. And I was like, well, that's interesting. Like put it on my console and had it out with all the other birthday cards. And then a dear friend of mine, we'd been trading some voice notes back and forth about something really important. And at one point, he texted me, like, not only do you need to write your book, but you need to start a podcast. And this was like 3 days after I got that birthday card. And then I went out to dinner with friends and it came up again. And I was like, okay, this is getting clearly like, this is a sign. I really need to look into this and figure it out. So I did. And it took me a few months to kind of figure out what I wanted it to be. So it's called Not Like the Others. And the premise of it is amplifying other people's stories that make them feel like perhaps they are not like the others. Maybe they're messy, unusual, profound stories. Sometimes as humans, we like to hide those parts away. And so I just thought, you know what? I don't know that I would want to hear myself talk every single episode and only me. So like my kind of starting point was like, I must have guests every episode. This is something, and I have a rich enough network of people who are just really interesting and have such unusual stories that I think I can do this. So that's the premise, is that, we share these unusual perspectives or just human perspectives that might seem different at first, or these people might have hid them away, kind of feeling different from others, not like the others, but that there's actually shared humanity in sharing those stories. So yeah, it's been fun. I'm 6 episodes in.
Dang,
And
that's great.
yeah, I was going at a clip. I was trying to do it every week. And as a single mom and somebody who works, does other work, I was realizing that pace was not doable for me. So I think I'm moving to biweekly.
I tell people all the time, just get started, whether it's once a month, twice a week, every other week, because what people don't realize, my show's 9 years old, right? So you all see the
Yeah.
finished product, but 9 years ago, it went through so many iterations. I mean, I started out, it was 3 days a week. Then at one point,
Wow.
I went down to 2 days a week, just kind of like what you guys are all experiencing. Many of my clients tell me, So
Yeah.
then it went back up to 3. Then eventually it went to 5. Then it became 7. But I say all that to say it's been 9 years and many starts and stops. Same with the genre, like when I started out, I started podcasting at a comedy club, on a stage
Wow.
comedy club. I thought it was going to be more focused on comedians. Then it kind of went like investigative journalism style, and I sort of got into true crime.
Ooh.
And then I realized, I don't know, that was kind of depressing for me. I was like, I don't know, I'm too silly. I think it was very tough. Like, I was like, okay, I don't think I'm a true crime reporter. Then people always, it just wasn't a good fit. It wasn't a good fit. I was like,
Honestly, I feel like I'm a silly person too. I would just be making a lot of really inappropriate dark jokes that
so yeah, and I always tell people like it seems like okay, and for a lot of people, true crime is it, but for me, it was like going to visit and talk to people about something that happened on the worst day of their life was like
yeah.
not exciting. Now I don't know, is interviewing Ashley Darby from Real Housewives of Potomac. I guess I get energized by that and all the TLC people. So to each their own, okay.
Yeah.
So all right, so you're going to go to biweekly. Can you tell us, like, give us an example? What is with a guest? What is a story that they tell that is different, that makes them different? Is it about work, how they grew up? Give us like a very specific.
Yeah, so actually one of my very first guests I absolutely adore, and it was kind of the perfect layup for me to start the podcast out. Um and it was actually about the unusual way we met, and then also how his life unfolded. So back in June, I went TikTok viral for getting stuck on a mountain in Nederland, Colorado. I followed my satellite map off of like a regular trailhead. Like I was leaving a trailhead and it was dirt roads both ways, like at the fork. And I thought I was following the road that I came in on, which was like super easy. That was not the road. I ended up taking my Subaru Crosstrek on this wild class 4 jeeping trail. By the time I realized it was not the right way, like I cleared an obstacle that I could not then like back over. So like I couldn't turn around. Long story short, I make it 95% of the way down this trail, like having a panic attack. I wreck my car because it's like not meant for a car like that. And by the time, like I'm safe, I'm okay. By the time I get a hold of like emergency services and get down, the police officer's just like, I don't know how you're going to get your car. I'm like, I don't either. Long story short, I posted on TikTok. It goes viral. They connect me with this volunteer group of Jeepers called Colorado 4x4 Rescue and Recovery. And they do this for free. It's like a volunteer thing. They go and take like cars off the sides of cliffs and like rescue people. And sometimes it's more life threatening than others. I was obviously okay. So one of the men that did this, he like came and picked me up, and we all went back up to the mountain to get my car the next day and figure out how to do it. What was this gentleman named Mac? And immediately we became friends. Like the moment he picked me up, because I was like, this is kind of crazy. Like this might be a bad idea to like go up on a mountain with like 3 random men to go get my car.
I know, like you're kind of in one of those positions where you're like, probably this isn't a good idea, but here I am. I'm in the Jeep. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're just like, do I have another choice? Like, I just want my car back. So we ended up becoming dear friends. He's a father of 5 kids. And one of the things that I thought was so interesting is he's talking about his grown kids, because he's 60 now, is they were all elite, like a doctor who married a doctor, an emergency service, like a deputy sheriff who married a deputy sheriff, a firefighter, and one was actually a professional basketball player. And then his late son, Connor, served in the Army, and he completed suicide a few years ago due to untreated PTSD. And but the most extraordinary thing about Mac was that in all of this, because he's a chief technology officer, like CTO, fractional CTO, and he puts community service at the heart of everything he does. And clearly that was something that his kids picked up on too. They're all like, so that was my angle with the episode, was like, you are just so community focused and you just bring such heart to everything you do. And you clearly have translated that to how your kids clearly picked up on that as well. So we talked about that in the episode. We talked about how we met, which was like wild and weird and like was not on my bingo card for 2025. And also his family, and also surviving the grief of losing his son, and also catalyzing that, like that, using that as a catalyst to continue to do work with Stop Soldier Suicide, or to start doing work with Stop Soldier Suicide. So that's just one example of just like, wow, there's so many layers to pull back on this human that you may pass while you're driving down the highway. And it's just such a reminder that we all carry so much with us that is heavy, but that we also have such resilience. Like humans are so resilient, and there's still a lot of love in a lot of people's hearts. And it's really important, I think, especially these days, to amplify those stories.
Yeah. Well, once you get offline, you realize like most people are so giving. Like, obviously, your friend, that's like an extreme because it's passed on to his kids and everything he does. But I find when you really interview people, and I think that's one of the beauties of podcasts, right? Is it connects us. Like, there's so many people are so giving and they've been through so much. And to your point, they're so resilient. Like, there's just so much hope. And podcasting allows you to tell those stories.
Yeah, it really does. And I just find that, I mean, people have always said this to me as an aside from like that moment in time when I was coming in strong, where I was like, okay, you're being called clearly to do this. Beyond that, people would always say, you have such a great voice for podcasting. And I'm not like, this is not a self-critical thing, but I don't get it personally. Like, I'm like, okay, whatever you say, if you like hearing my voice, great. I don't, after editing any single podcast episode, I'm like, I don't love my voice. I don't want to hear it again.
You'll get used to it. It's
Yeah.
that's something that's really hard for people initially to hear their voice. And then before you know it, it will just be background noise. You won't hear, yeah. But if you aren't you it's weird, isn't it? You're like very critical when you first hear your own voice.
Yes. But I also like to think of it as a bit of a metaphor, right? When you aren't used to using your voice in certain ways, there's always there's I think there's usually some kind of core wound around that, right? And for me, I started out this year not having a TikTok, not podcasting, not writing, and by February I was doing it all, and I just kept pushing myself because I was terrified. And I thought, if I'm going to get past this and actually make my dreams come true of writing, of like writing my book, of podcasting, of sharing my story and helping other people share theirs, I need to get over that, whatever that wound is about my voice,
Yes. How did you hit buy on the podcast course? Like you said you kind of had these like divine interventions that was like calling you. How'd you find my podcast course and then buy it?
Yeah, another series of divine intervention. Well, first I found it through Liz Cully, who has a really incredible podcast called Cool Cool Cool. And she's hilarious. I love her.
This is a trip. I know. And by the way, like a huge, Hollywood person. She runs like the Hollywood Reporter, the outlet. I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah, she is. And I met Liz
Great person.
through this tiny writer's workshop that I found on Instagram. And I love to hate on social media, but I swear all of the like wildest connections I've made that propelled my life forward were via Instagram. But I found this writers workshop, Downtown Writers, on Instagram via, an author who's on tour. She shouted it out, Sarah Hoover. Her book, when she released it, she shouted out this writers workshop. And so I joined it and I thought, okay, great. This is, it's $150 a month. That's doable for me. I get to go meet with a few strangers and share my work and then peace out. And it's like really low risk, right? And I thought this is a great kind of entry point. Liz was in the class among a few other really important people who have become so critical to me pushing this forward. And so I had been talking to one of our editors, one of the teachers in the class, And I said, I've kind of been thinking about podcasting too. I don't know if you know anybody who does that. She was like, well, Liz Cully does that. Liz Cully has a successful podcast. Reach out to Liz. So I did. And she was like slammed, but she wrote right back to me and was like, hey, I think you should buy Sarah's course. She will tell you everything you need to know. And that's how I started mine.
Oh my God. What courses did you buy? You bought one at first, right? And then you bought a second?
Yeah, I bought the 101 and then I thought, why just stop there? Like for the price of the podcasting pros course, I thought, let's just give me the whole picture so that I understand where I'm going. Like I'm one of those people. So yeah, I bought both of them.
Okay, so you bought podcasting 101, then you bought pros or you bought the six-figure master plan?
The pros.
The pros. Okay,
Yeah.
fabulous. So, what did you find it easy or do you have any feedback for us? How was the course for someone who had never podcasted before?
Well, as somebody who specifically has experience in learning and development and building out training modules, I thought it was impeccable. It was
Oh, excuse
impeccable.
me. Okay.
Like the fact that there were so many different learning modalities too. Like if you're not a video person, there's a downloadable PDF with everything you discuss. There's I loved it because it met me where I was at, which was I had to take it in piecemeal when I could late at night after I got my son down, when I had free space in my brain. And I loved that it was just like the way especially with the 101, getting set up with equipment, that was a big hurdle mentally for me that I was just like, I don't have the time to research this. The way you broke down, one, if this is how you're formatting your podcast, if you're having guests that via Zoom, like virtually, or if you're having guests in person, you're going to need this kind of equipment. And by the way, for every piece of equipment, here's like the best option, the better option, and here's like the great economical option that will get it done for you. It was perfect. Like I didn't have to think that hard.
Oh my God, thank you. That's really and it's, when you do it for so long, it's hard to know, are you explaining it to someone clearly who's never done this? So
Yeah.
I'm glad that resonated because that's always, I think, the hardest part of doing a course is like, okay, I've been doing this forever. I could do it in my sleep, but how do I teach somebody to do that clearly?
Yeah. Well, I also find that when you're an expert in anything, it's hard to know. Like I bet so much of this is, like you said, you can do it in your sleep. To tease out like the most basic parts of it and be like, hey, these are the headphones you should buy, like this is why you should have really good audio. And that was the other thing too that I thought was so interesting was the audio was the biggest piece for me. Was I wanted to nail the audio because I have heard from so many people that were like, I would love to listen to so-and-so's podcast, but the P's are always popping and it's so distracting. So I can't, and it's like, that is a real hurdle for people to actually access your content. If the audio is not right, people just peace out.
Yeah, it's really hard. And again, like if you have never, I mean, I came from radio, so I had some understanding of, where you put the volume, how you check the levels, but for somebody just starting, that's all extremely new. Can you share with us, where did you end up hosting your podcast? Like what company? Do you do it through Riverside? Do you do it through Libsyn? Like where do you
Yeah.
host?
So I record it through Riverside and I use Transistor to distribute. So I posted on, we distribute to Spotify, Apple, Amazon, a lot of the indie podcast platforms. I also posted to my Substack.
Yeah.
Um, YouTube has been a little bit trickier for me for some reason. I think it's because I don't always do video. And so obviously when you have video, it's easier because you could just take the edited file and just pop it on really easy. But I just need to go back and actually post the ones that don't have video and figure that out. But yeah, it's pretty good distribution, and I find that Riverside makes it really easy. And I think that this is a really interesting time to be joining podcasting, like to start doing podcasting, because there's a lot of AI baked into the editing software now that is phenomenal.
Amazing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
And when you talk about some people, their hesitancy to start a podcast because it's going to be so much work, one of the ways AI is changing our business is it's doing so much for you. Writing descriptions, writing titles, writing your social media posts so you
Yeah.
don't have to. And for people that are listening to this and maybe like, okay, I'm going to make the leap like Danielle did, riverside.fm is awesome. It's a place where you go onto their website, you can host a guest. It almost works like Zoom, but it also allows you to use AI, which is just
Mhm.
built right into their system. You can right from there, you can post video, individual clips. I think it even lets you write newsletters. I mean, there's so many features all in one. It's a great place for people to start, especially if you're going to have guests.
Oh, yeah. And one of my favorite things that it does is when you do have somebody virtually who's okay being on camera, it will actually create magic clips for your social media from like some of the most interesting points in the conversation. And if there's one sticking point for me that makes this like such a bear still, and I have to get over it, is the social media. Like, I just have such a love hate with it, and I'm like, oh yeah, I need to like schedule like I need to find a way to make this land with people, and those magic clips are gold to me because then I don't have to do much. Like I don't have to create like a pull quote or anything. It's like great. It's just I love it. And so I don't know. I was blown away by what AI can do specifically on Riverside. It's incredible.
It's incredible. It saves you so much time. It is really going to make our industry, I think, so much better because I think that's a big hurdle for a lot of people is the social media aspect. And as it gets, they're saying like AI is going to be honed to kind of tell you, okay, Danielle, these are the clips we think are going to go viral. Well, if they can predict it even at a 50% rate, and then suddenly you're
Mhm.
reaching a whole new audience, it's like they've done so much of the heavy lifting for you. You know,
Yeah.
because right now, right, we're still all shooting in the dark. I am too with guests. It's like, okay, is this going to strike and go viral? Like, is this what people want to hear? You don't know, right? It's
You
very
really have
tricky.
no idea. And I think the craziest thing too is things with the analytics of the episodes has been really fascinating for me because
Hmm.
you get to see which episodes are performing the best in terms of downloads. And sometimes it's like an older episode that just pops up to the top. Like I'll log in onto my transistor and see suddenly like 5 downloads for this one episode 4 weeks ago yesterday, and I'm like, huh, this is interesting. You just don't know when a certain social media post is going to take off because it's not going to go viral right away always, um and then you don't know how that's going to translate to downloads. So it's all been, I've been at it now for about 8 weeks, and it's all been really fascinating. I would like to see how the data kind of nets out over the next 6 months to a year.
Was there something in the courses, Danielle, that you had a question about?
you know No, not so far, but I'm still early days, right? I think my next big challenge ahead of me is figuring out a way to monetize. I think the first part was getting
Yeah.
started, proving that I can stay consistent with it, proving that people actually want to listen to it, which has been really exciting. Like every time someone shares that they're listening to my podcast, I'm like, yes.
Right.
And
Yes.
I mean, I had over 150 downloads in the first month, which I don't know. I have no concept of if that's a lot or a little for something like this, but it feels like a ton to me. And so I'm like, great, 150 people or 150 downloads. Let's
That's
see.
amazing. It's amazing
Thank you.
because you've never done it. You don't have any marketing plan. You don't have a major budget. It's not like you're on with an enormous company here like Spotify, and I'm talking about like, Spotify has like certain personalities they pay, right? Michelle
Yeah.
Obama, Joe Rogan, right? I mean, you're not like, that's incredible. So,
Thank you.
yes, that is a great sign, 100%. You're right where you need to be. You're getting your footing, you're finding your voice, you're getting the flow twice a month, whatever it's going to be. That's so important.
Thank you. That means a lot coming from you. I really appreciate that.
No, yeah. Oh my God. No, you're completely onto it, you know? And like you said, you never even had a TikTok or really kind of thought much about social media until like 7 months ago. I mean, that's incredible to have 150 downloads in a month when you're not like, posting on social media 8 times a week, 10 times a week. That's
Yeah.
huge. Huge.
Yeah. I think that that's also the next personal thing for me is like actually now comes the process. And I think this is something that has been, I think from a creative standpoint, I've always worked full time in a corporate job. I am a mom, like life is busy.
Yep.
And then I got laid off in May, and it was my first time I ever got laid off. And it was kind of, again, one of those divine kind of interventions of like, I was cooling down on that part of my career, but I wasn't brave enough to do a full pivot, nor did I really have the financial kind of flexibility to just be like, all right, peace. I'm gonna start podcasting.
Yeah, right. I quit. I'm going into podcasting. Yes.
Like people would be like, we need to intervene. But so but it was an interesting time because I was like, all right, great. This is time for me to lean into my passion projects while I'm sorting out, what's going to pay the bills. Right. And so I've been consulting, which has been really fun and interesting too. But this time in my life has demanded of me my own routine setting. And because now it's like, great, I have all of these projects that are just my own, even my consulting. Right. And so that's the thing that I realized as a personal kind of area of development is taking this further is I need to set my production schedule. It used to be like, oh, you just let me know when you're free. And now it's like, we're doing Thursdays and only Thursdays.
Yes. 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 Yes.
And like, okay, now that I've done this a few times, this is how long it takes me for production, right? And I imagine some of that will start to tighten the more I do it, but there's still going to be that like, no, I don't trust the AI to take all of the ums and the knows out because some of it sounds really clunky. So I like to have a little bit more of a personal touch on the editing. So things like that. And then building out a social media calendar. That's probably my biggest, like, just do it. Just do it. Make AI do it, but still do it.
That. No, and I think you have the greatest approach towards podcasting, which is really what I tell most people is start it as a part-time thing, and that's how I started mine. The reason I was able to launch mine is same thing. A radio station was doing a flip. We were all getting fired. They had said, okay, you can stay on and be the midday woman, or you can take this severance package. And I knew if I stayed on as the midday woman, I was just prolonging I was, going to save myself 2 years and then they were going to fire me and I'd be 2 years behind in podcasting. And I had the same, I would go out to events with women, who were radio listeners. And I would ask them like, what do you listen to? Thinking they were going to say other radio shows. And that's when Serial was so huge. And they're like, I listen to this Serial podcast. I listen to NPR podcasts. And I'm like,
yeah.
Okay, this is the sign, Sarah. Like this is the universe telling you people are not tuning into morning radio anymore. The on-demand audio listening is the future. So I took that severance package, but at the same time, much like you have your consulting gig, I worked part-time at Fox 5 DC as an entertainment contributor. It wasn't enough money for me to be a big salary, but it kept me like it paid the bills so I could be launching my own business. I love that you're taking that approach. I think that's so smart.
Thank you. It feels honestly 7 months ago, I couldn't have dreamed I would be in this moment in my life. I know.
I love when that happens in life. I love when that happens when you wake up and you're like, pinch me. Like I never thought this could be possible. And now look at my life.
Yeah. And when I reflect on it, it really is two things. One, I had the right people cheering me on, like people who could say it the way I needed to hear it.
Yep.
So some people will be like, oh, you need to write a book. Oh, you need to do this, whatever. But like just the right people said it to me at the right time. But also, it is such a testament to the fact that every little decision you make gets you there.
Yeah.
Like this was simmering in the back. I have a book where I was just like brainstorming titles and it's like fat too. And I kind of knew I wanted this one title, but I was like, I don't know. And then I went through all these other titles, and there were so many other podcasts by those names. And I thought they were so clever. And I was like, no, no, no. That was another thing that I thought was so good in your course, was when you were talking about naming your podcast. Perfect. It was gave me exactly the direction I needed, which is like, okay, the people might other people might have podcasts by that name, but like, do you want to compete with somebody who has like a really well performing podcast? You know,
So
like,
hard.
no, I don't.
It's so hard. Yeah. I mean, finding your own name. And again, like that's the beauty too. It's podcasting is still the wild, wild west. I mean, my show, it took different name changes. You know, it was Hey Frage, but nobody knew back in the day how to say Hey Frage. It was like Hey Fraze, Hey Frost. Like it was terrible from a marketing perspective. So then I
Yeah.
changed it, you know? So I'm so glad you love that. Danielle, what is the goal? What is, if you could wave a magic wand in a year, where do you see yourself when it comes to podcasting? What would you like to
Oh
happen?
man, in a year, I would love for this to be, if not my full-time job, which I think would be a pie in the sky, but like,
Oh,
oh,
no, it's a reality. It's
you think
especially if
so?
you, oh, 100%. Before you and I started this, you were talking about production. If you want to stay, you know, having your own show, but also producing, helping people with social media, editing audio, helping them, you know, grow their show, schedule, you will, yes, you can have a full-time job in that 100%. There, people are
I would
desperate
love
for
that.
that.
I would love that. I
Uh,
would love that.
that's a
And but
reality.
I think my 5 year plan, though, like maybe not even five, we'll call it 2 year plan. I would love to be hosting my show in a big way. I would love to be making money off of it. I would love to have a studio. You know, like right now it feels so bootstrapped, and I kind of love that. And one of my friends was even like, well, maybe that's the thing. You know, maybe you just keep rolling with that for a while, because people kind of love real, you know, and that's the whole point of the podcast. But I I think my dream is is to bring so much positivity and amplify really messy and profound stories in a big way, and to make that like a company, like a media company, you know, whether that's books, podcasting, like just a platform, you know, kind of think like Hello Sunshine, right? That's Reese Witherspoon's media company, I think, right?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Like, I would love to one day be doing that, you know? Like, it's not so much about me, it's about sharing other people's stories and specifically helping to bridge this, like, widening chasm in the world and in our country, and not in political ways. Like, what I see around me in the world is people feel so alone, isolated, and like they are not like the others, like other people would not understand them, or
Yeah.
don't understand their point of view, or understand their struggles, or what they're carrying. And that to me is the root of all of the division we see around us, like man versus woman, right versus left, like whatever it is, whatever the division is, that's the core of it. Is there's a lack of understanding, there's a lack of connection, there's a lack of opportunity to see yourself in someone else's story. And that's like what I want to do. If I could just keep doing this the rest of my life and meeting people and just like helping them shine, that's my goal.
Oh my God, I love it. I had this blink when you were saying that because Reese Witherspoon's Hello Sunshine really took books, right? It took books and
Yeah.
then it licensed them and made them TV shows and movies, right? And I almost feel like yours, could it be that your podcast interviews and stories become like a lifetime hour-long movie?
Yeah. Yeah. And
Not like as a blink, like I'm like, okay, Reese did it with books, but could you do it with interviews and real people?
yeah, I would love that.
That would be wild. By the way, I don't even know that TV will exist. I mean, maybe it even manifests into like you find a production company and it's like a TikTok, you know,
Mhm.
it's like a 30-minute TikTok or YouTube show, you know, that's
Yeah.
like your interviews turned into like a scripted 1 hour story telling, you never know.
I, honestly, even now, I find myself adjacent to many people every day more and more adjacent to many people who can help me with that dream. And that's the craziest part.
And isn't that wild how the universe does that? Like, because you know what? I don't think that ever would have happened if you stayed in the corporate job. Not that there's anything wrong with the
No.
corporate job. It pays the health insurance, it pays the bill, many things. But look, when one door closes, like, look at everything that's opened.
Yeah. It makes me emotional actually when I think about it, because I'm like,
I get it.
you just have to bet on yourself. And I used to bet on myself so much. And then I went through my divorce. I had my son during COVID, and I went through my divorce, and then I lost my job. And, it's like all these things that kind of happen. But when you're on the other side of it, you see it for what it is, which is the universe just taking everything else away. Like, we got to make room, baby girl. We got to make room. We got to close some of this out. And it's all going to be fresh and new. And it's going to be better than you can dream. And while I'm still like in it, and there's still days where I'm like, cool, I have rent paid for next month. When was the last time I had to think this way?
I know. Yeah.
But it's paid for next month. I've got my car. My son has food on the table. We have what we need. We have a community. I have the bandwidth to do the things that have been calling me for years. And I think that's, again, it's where you just have to have faith and bet on yourself and know, like, I've always figured it out. And so I'm excited to figure this one out, because this is actually for me, like, this is my passion. This isn't just like, oh, I signed an employment offer and here are my responsibilities,
Oh, you make me emotional, because that's what life is all about, And I think it's one of those things. I hate to see people go through life and, I think we get opportunities and we get windows to bet on ourselves, and it's scary. And sometimes people just can't do it. And, life goes so quick. And once you have a child, I think all the sayings are true, like time flies. And,
Yeah.
it's like you have this window, and it's going to work out better than you ever imagined. Might be a year from now, might be 3 years from now. It's on the universe's time, but you just keep one foot in front of the other, and you already have it. You already have it, girl. I mean, you've already had a successful career. You know what it takes to have hard work. You know what it takes for a company to run itself. Like, I am so excited and emotional for you. Like, because I can see it. It's so great. And it's so empowering for your son to see. Podcast. Final question. You've been so generous with your time, but would you recommend my courses to somebody that is thinking about podcasting? And if there's someone listening to this and they're like, gosh, on the fence, what would you tell them?
I would absolutely recommend them, because one, the price point is accessible. It didn't feel like I was committing to, a semester of college or something, like $1,000 or something. It was very accessible. Price point wise. And two, you are so meticulous about laying out the roadmap for every step of the way that it was just so doable. It was accessible. And the way you break out the modules are not overwhelming. Like I said, you can watch the video. If you're not a video person, there's the PDF with like the cliff notes, the most important things. You link everything in there. It's truly phenomenal. So if you're on the fence about starting a podcast and you just can't get over that mental lift of, oh my gosh, where do I begin? Begin here. Begin with Go Big Podcasting. This is square one, and it is going to be spoon fed to you. And I think that's the best way to start if you're feeling overwhelmed.
Oh, Danielle Roth, thank you so much. Can you tell people, we want people to follow you, to listen to your podcast. I'm so grateful for you. Tell people again the name of your show and where people can follow you on social media or your website.
Absolutely. So the name of my show is Not Like the Others. You can find me on Instagram at Not Like the Others Pod. And you can find it wherever you get your podcasts. So Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and all of the other Substack. I also have a Substack. But yeah, you can find the link tree on my Instagram so that you can peruse the many options you have to find which platform you'd like to listen to it on. But yeah, I'd love it if you joined us.
Not Like the Others. Danielle, we love you. Thank you so much for your time today and stopping by.
Thank you for having me, Sarah. It's been an honor.